Hello, everyone. I am Gunesh Patil. It's a privilege to be speaking at API Days Paris. This is my first time at API Days. I'm very, very excited to be here. And I'm so glad that you could all join us in this virtual session. And today I'm going to talk about something in testing and something which is really, really hot, as you can see from the picture, right? So I'm going to talk about lava. Um, you must be wondering, like, what's really happening? What's he going to talk about? And how does lava actually get into testing? So we'll get to that. Hold your horses for now. We'll get into the presentation. It's about a story of how we actually pulled off an amazing task that we were doing for the test automation, and how we actually succeeded by implementing some very key concepts like testing pyramid and some of the other traditional breaking some of the other traditional methods, and how we exactly got about doing the successful work that we were able to. So I'm getting to that. So just bear with me for a moment. So let me introduce myself. So I am Gunesh Patil. I am the founder and host at Liberated Tester. I also have a podcast called Liberated Tester. Do check it out on Spotify or any other app, any other favorite app that you have. I also work full time as a senior tech lead at Ushur. Um, we here at Bangalore, we have an engineering office in Bangalore. We have sales, marketing, and other exec people sit in California. We are a customer experience automation company, and we it's all about simplifying user journeys. We use a lot of things. We use a lot of AI. We use a lot of back office things, and we have been able to secure close to 30 plus clients now. And just an interesting fact about us, we have been able to grow about 10x in last 2 years. So you can see like how the growth is going. It's all fantastic. So topics that interest me, mindset is and process improvements has been to the heart of what I do, what I been doing for last 12 plus years in the industry. And mindset is all about so my podcast is also about the mindset. So to again, sorry about that, but do check it out. Some of the recent interests like the urban sketching, origami has been there, but I don't get to do it often. And if you can see from the presentation, fonts are really my weakness. And yeah, I love fonts. I'm a sucker for fonts. That's what you can say. So let's dive into the actual topic, right? Enough about me. Let's get into it. So the story starts in like the ancient Citrix era. I'm not sure how many of you really have heard about Citrix nowadays. I don't see many people using Citrix and all. So this story is quite old. In our project, we had SAP implementation done. I was working for a banking client based out of Canada, and because of all the security constraints and everything, right? We had Citrix deployed on our machine, so we used to log into Citrix, access SAP, and do the testing of the different applications that are going to come there. And the thing about the project was we had very few domain experts, and the only way that was known to people was like the traditional way of UI. We only know, okay, this is the Citrix. We go there, we log in with these users. This is what we test. And after some time, UFT, HP UFT, which used to be called as HP QTP, that was the only tool available for us because we had a license and everything. And with given these all constraints, right, it was all um what do you say, to the book. We didn't had much of exploration to be done. We didn't had much of bandwidth also to do some exploration. So I know some of you are saying and thinking in their mind, right? We have heard that story before. But yeah, I mean, this gets interesting after a while. So we actually had a team of, at a peak we had like 22 people in the team, and we used to automate all the journeys which are there. But And to be very honest, the automation was not in a great state. We used to have a lot of automation scripts. We had a lot of flows automated, but there are a lot of things which are not really up to the mark, and our automation used to fail. Our scripts used to stall, given the memory constraint in the citrix. It was all it was all well, to be fair, it was a mess. So um, so the like I said, right, the state of automation that we had no consistency. We didn't get consistent results at all from the UI. And that was one of the major issues when we were trying to prove our testing. So that was something that we faced a lot. There was no predictability. We didn't know which test will definitely pass, which test will definitely fail. So we didn't had that at all. And there was no usability aspects to the automation, because we always had to go to Citrix, do the installation, and then run the test. And it was a lot of things. Our Citrix server also hosted an ALM, which used to have the scripts which will be triggered from ALM. So from the usability point of it, there was no simplicity in all that setup. And obviously there was no time saving because a lot of work was being done. But there was a lot of time also invested in actually troubleshooting this thing, in actually getting to the root cause of things and all these things, right? So yeah, I mean, that was not the typical and the ideal position of using automation. So what we had, the root of the problem. So root of the problem was what you can see here is like an ice cream type of thing which is coming up on the screen. So this is how what the problem was. We had the distribution of the test in this manner, where we had like the unit test at the very bottom, then we had service test, the UI test, and the manual test. So the manual session based tests were really really high in number, and we had few UI automation tests which were there. There were absolutely zero service test, and unit tests were not in our control because this was a vendor based setup, and we didn't really know like what's going to happen, or what have they already tested. So we didn't have that visibility at all. So everything that came down was to us and the UI tests that we're doing. We had a very very big test plan and the test suite that we had. So we had close to, I think, 2500 odd cases that we had. And we used to get drops, and then those test cases would get added. So they would add one functionality per drop, so they'll add a few screens. Then you need to know the codes in SAP. If people have used SAP, they might know what I'm talking about. So there used to be very specific codes and the program that you need to put in. There was a backend settings program as well, I believe. And a lot of these things need to be covered. And UFT was good at automation. I'm not saying that it was not good at automation. The problem was the infra that it was placed in. So that was one of the problem. The Citrix server had a very small memory constraints. So we didn't really had that much of leeway. So one thing for sure, that it needed some some revitalizing. It needed few push to actually get through the door and use the automation for the reason for which the automation is going to be used. So now that we know root of the problem, what we said, let's go and dig some graves. Not literally, not literally, but yeah. So we thought, let's go out of the way here. Let's see what we can do here. Let's see if we can dig out few things and see if we can actually make our way around and make some more improvements. Like I said, right, I'm a guy who is a sucker for process improvements as well. So it didn't fit well with me. So what we did is we started asking questions. We asked, can we build the domain knowledge within us rather than actually going back to the people? Because the to and fro in that feedback was also taking a lot of time and eating up our time of actual automation efforts. So that was one of the things, because when we were stuck, we didn't have the answers. So we always had to go back to these people who were again another vendor, and many multi-vendor projects. It was a typical relationship. So I don't want to get into that. But yeah, so that was one of the problem. It was also one of the time-taking tasks that we had, and we also started asking questions like, is this the right way that we're doing the automation? Is there a different way that we have to do the automation for? So that was also something that we were really wondering about. There was also another question like, can we use another tool? Is it something wrong with UFT? Is it something that UFT is prohibiting us doing it? But so there were a lot of questions that we started asking. We also talked to our infra team to see what we can do, and started exploring more and more, so that we can actually get to a point where we can say, okay, this is something that we can do now. So so after that, so this is the transformation that I was talking about. So we did all the digging, and so the way we did it is we first built our domain expertise. We had two of our top automation engineers. They went, I mean, they reached out to the other vendor who had all the knowledge, who had all the test plans, who had the functional knowledge. So they sat with them. They got the knowledge. They actually went into the intricacies of the system, of understanding of what it is, how we can do the same thing from a different ways. What they did after that was they actually transformed that knowledge that they had into something which is automation capable inputs. What I mean by that is, so they had all the functional knowledge, but it was not readily consumable by the automation people. They didn't know what to be called, what has to be done. So, and that was one thing, but then again, going back to the UI was a no go, right? Because we already faced a lot of issues, we already faced a lot of problems there, right? So that is not something that we should be doing. And so what happened? So then we started exploring a bit more, and we found out that there are a couple of APIs, if when exposed, can do the job for us. So it gets down to the principle of testing or having that focus for your testing, right? So when we were doing this, we were like, okay, I want to test whether the balance is X. I don't want to do the whole customer creation, the account creation from the UI, which would take about 15 minutes, and then come to a stage where I'm actually testing my test case. So what we did was we rearranged all those cases into something called a business flow, and that business flow will cover different things. But now this will not be done from the UI, this will be done from an API side. So we got a couple of infra team members to enable the APIs for us. We got few new users created, we got a couple of certificates done. Then we got to know, okay, now this is not something that works out of the box. So we got some anonymous users created who had a default certificates which were accepted at the end. This was all happening in the testing infra. So security was not that big of a concern, and we were still within Citrix. So that was another advantage, that we were still within our security bounds, but we were able to explore a bit more than what we had. And though we were using the same UFT, now it was very, very lightweight. We were just calling the HTTP request to and fro. And the way we were enhancing the execution times, right? The test case, which used to take about 15 to 20 minutes earlier, now it was done in 2 minutes. So you can imagine the fold, like the X fold um, efforts that we were actually saving in that thing. And this actually led to faster coding and faster execution of these cycles, right? So, excuse me. So when we had that, um, these business flows and other things actually led to a really, really good situation where we had, okay, now we have to develop these cases. Then we don't have to sit around and in one day we do like five. Instead of that, in one day we were able to do like 20. So that's how fast we were in actually coding those cases. And as you can imagine, all these things actually leads to what? A happy customer, right? So we were able to do a lot of things, and we were able to prove the value of automation by doing this whole transformation journey was really really amazing. It took a lot of efforts, but the fruits that we had were amazing. We had, like, I don't know, 10 to 15 times um, the savings in the time execution time of the automation. We are able to run that automation a lot of times, and yeah, you get the picture, right? So everyone is happy. And so what actually led to this? So I want to, again, coming back to the mindset, right? So I want to get back to the same idea of having an API first mindset. This has been talked about in a lot of areas, where we have, like, the development should be API first, but nobody talks about testing being API first, right? We are always given a drop where, okay, there is an UI, and then here you go and test it. But I would highly recommend to go and look for the APIs first. Look into the Chrome console or whatever browser you're using. Look into the console. Look at the APIs that they're calling. If there are any internal APIs, try to look for them, and they would really, really make your journey really easy. Take it from my experience of multiple projects, right? Yeah, it really, really expedites the processes. Talk to fellow developers. If you see any calls which are not really uh, into the console, but you think that something may be happening in the back end, go talk to the developers. They know it better, right? They developed it. So go talk to them. If they don't have the answers, go ask the system design people, because they are the one who designed it. So that's something that we have to consider. And so sorry, and advocate for it. Advocating for these kind of methods is absolutely necessary. We should be telling our fellow testers, we should be telling our fellow developers, everyone in the team, to go for the APIs first, and then we can start talking about UIs. And because UI is just about displaying the data that is being taken from the backend using an API. So if the APIs are not working, however fancy UI you build is not going to be sufficient to actually please the customers. So APIs are really critical in this journey. So the solution for us was something like this, and this is where the lava comes into picture. Okay, so just picture this. So this is something like a volcano, and there is ash. There's ash at the ash cloud at the top, and this is how the lava is actually going. So the solution for us, like I said, right, unit tests were actually not. Oh, by the way, this is also called a test pyramid. Some people might know it by the test pyramid, but some of the people that I have heard, they also refer it as a volcano. So that's where the lava comes into picture. And so the our solution was to move those UI tests to the service tests, and as I said, unit tests were not in our control, so we didn't actually worry about them. We still had manual tests, which actually tested the UI whether it's working correctly or not, but they were minimal. They were not like the huge chunk of ice cream which was there on the top of the cone, right? So that was not the case. So this was the solution for us because we had a unique situation, we had a unique problem. This may not be the solution for you. And this is where you go back to the stage where I said, let's dig some graves, right? So that's where you start. That's where you start analyzing your problem. That's where you start analyzing your situation. And that's how we actually get to a point where you can devise a solution for yourself. So this was a solution for me, for my situation. There are a couple of other things. So there are a couple of other evolutionary variations of the pyramid. So I have considered only two of them. There is a document or a link at the bottom which you can visit. Um, so Diamond is one of the popular thing where integration tests are given most efforts because they cover the business critical coverage. So These integrations can be very, very important in cases where you have data transformations, you have core API development happening, you have databases in picture. So if there are two systems which are talking to each other, integration tests are the most crucial part that you should consider. And that again goes back to the situation of your situation analysis. So you have to analyze that situation. There's also something called a trophy version of the pyramid, where it is same as diamond, but there is a small thing added at the bottom which says, so this small thing at the bottom is a static analysis. So this static analysis is done maybe at a code level or at a document level. So it depends on your situation where you want to fit in that piece. But that's how it is. Yeah, right. So, and it also focuses on the integration test because it's just an extension of the diamond, and it puts more focus on the actual coding process. So these are just two of the examples, and here are a few more resources of the test shapes and some of the strategies, test automation strategies, and it all some comparisons of the previous things. So I hope you enjoyed the session. I hope you got to learn something new. Uh, if you enjoyed the story, do reach out to me on LinkedIn. Here is my connection QR code, and there is my email of my podcast handle. So do reach out to me if you have any questions. And it was really wonderful to be talking at API Days Paris. And I again thank all the program committee and everyone on the team who have enabled this, and thank you again. See you. Bye bye.